Welcome back to the Lost Tactician. Imagine surviving brutal medieval winters in a stone castle without central heating. Sounds impossible, right? But the truth is, medieval engineers weren't just building fortresses, they were masterminds of passive heating. Today, we're about to uncover the ingenious secrets that kept those massive stone structures surprisingly warm, even as blizzards raged outside. This is the lost science of northern survival, written in stone, hidden in plain sight. The chilly truth of medieval living. We've all felt the cold dampness of old stone buildings and assumed that medieval life meant endless shivering by inadequate fires. Popular culture feeds us images of frostbitten nobles huddled in furs, their breath visible in grand halls. But this perception is fundamentally flawed. Medieval castles, particularly those in northern Europe, were engineered with a sophistication that rivals modern passive house design. These weren't primitive shelters with oversized fireplaces desperately fighting the cold. They were thermal machines carefully calibrated to harvest, store, and redistribute every available calorie of heat. The architects and master masons of the medieval period understood something we're only now rediscovering, that controlling heat isn't about generating more of it, but about managing what you have. They built structures that worked with natural thermodynamics rather than against them. This wasn't luck or accident. It was battlefield-tested engineering refined over generations, where failure meant freezing to death during siege winters. The stakes were survival, and the solutions they developed hold profound lessons for our energy-challenged modern world. The thermal powerhouse, mastering mass and orientation. Walk up to a medieval castle wall and you'll encounter stone measuring 2 to 4 meters thick. These weren't built solely for defense. Those massive walls functioned as thermal batteries, absorbing heat from winter sun, roaring fires, and even the metabolic warmth of inhabitants and livestock. Stone has high thermal mass. It heats slowly, but releases that energy over extended periods. During daylight hours, south-facing walls absorbed solar radiation. As temperatures dropped after sunset, those walls became radiators, releasing stored warmth throughout the night when it was needed most. Master builders oriented castles deliberately. Southern exposures maximized winter sun angles when the arc sat low on the horizon, allowing precious light and warmth to penetrate deeper into living spaces. Northern walls were kept windowless or featured only narrow slits, minimizing heat loss to prevailing cold winds. This wasn't superstition, it was solar tempering, the art of using the sun as a passive heat source without active mechanical systems. The stone itself became the technology, transforming castles into structures that breathed with the seasons, warming gradually in autumn and retaining that thermal reservoir well into winter's depths. Airflow and insulation, the unseen engineering. Step inside a medieval castle and you'll notice something immediately. The rooms are smaller than you'd expect, with thick doors and careful transitions between spaces. This wasn't claustrophobia, it was thermal zoning. Large volumes of air are difficult to heat and quick to lose warmth. Medieval designers created interconnected chambers that trapped warm air in layers, using doors as thermal airlocks. Cold air sank to lower levels, while heated air rose, creating natural stratification that could be controlled through careful door management. But the genius went deeper than architecture. Stone walls, for all their thermal benefits, are poor insulators when directly exposed. Medieval inhabitants understood this viscerally. They hung heavy tapestries, not merely for decoration, but as essential insulation barriers that created dead air spaces between frigid stone and living space. Plaster finishes served similar purposes, adding crucial R-value to interior walls. Windows were really the greatest source of heat loss in any structure. so they were kept deliberately small and often fitted with wooden shutters or even early forms of oiled linen and horn panes. Interestingly, some wealthier castles actually employed what we might call primitive double glazing, using 2 layers of these materials with an air gap between. It's quite amusing, really, because that's a concept we tend to congratulate ourselves for inventing in the 20th century. Beyond the hearth, there were actually some pretty innovative heating systems at work. The massive central fireplace, which I suppose dominates our imagination of castle heating, was just part of a much more sophisticated setup. These weren't just simple fires. They were radiant heating installations, really designed to warm bodies and objects directly, rather than trying to heat up massive volumes of air. By being positioned centrally, their thermal radiation could reach occupants from multiple angles, and, believe it or not, the smoke itself served a purpose. As it rose through flues built into wall cavities, it actually transferred heat to the stone as it ascended toward the chimneys. Some castles, rather cleverly, incorporated Hypocaust-Inspired systems, basically channels within floors and walls that distributed heat from central fires, creating warm surfaces throughout the inhabited spaces. But, castles also relied on biological heating. In great halls, it was common to house livestock on the ground floors during winter, and their body heat would rise through the wooden floors to warm the living quarters above. Humans themselves, servants, soldiers, family, were packed into smaller spaces and, each body contributed metabolic warmth. Sleeping chambers employed ingenious microclimate design. 4-poster beds with heavy curtains created warm cocoons within those cold rooms, trapping body heat and breath in manageable volumes. These weren't luxuries. Really, they were survival technology, refined over centuries of northern winters. Lessons from the past can guide us toward a sustainable future. We stand at a crossroads in building design, searching for net-zero structures that minimize energy consumption. Medieval castles, in their quiet way, whisper solutions across the centuries. Modern passive house standards emphasize thermal mass, strategic orientation, superior insulation, and minimal thermal bridging, precisely the principles that medieval engineers mastered, and, remarkably, without computers or modern materials. Contemporary architects are, rediscovering rammed earth construction, thick stone walls, and thermal battery systems that medieval builders considered absolutely fundamental. The Lost Tacticians who designed these fortresses understood that true resilience comes not from consuming more resources, but from intelligent design that works with natural systems. Their castles stood for centuries, comfortable without fossil fuels, teaching us that sustainability isn't a modern invention, it's ancient wisdom, just waiting to be reclaimed. If you found these forgotten survival strategies valuable, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to The Lost Tactician. History doesn't just teach us where we've been, it shows us how to endure what's coming. Stay tactical.